The world has been taken over by a brand new worldwide epidemic, a pandemic, the coronavirus. Covid-19, formerly known as 2019 novel coronavirus, is lashing out. It's shutting down entire countries. Schools and universities are closed, as are restaurants, community centres, theatres, gyms, and other public places. The fear of being infected is enormous. People are staying indoors. A large part of the world is on lockdown. What exactly is going on? How many people have died so far? Hundreds of thousands, as in the days of cholera? Millions, perhaps, as in the times of the Spanish flu? Worldwide, 15,000. That was the corona death toll on March 23, 2020. 15,000 people. That's not much for a pandemic. The virus has been active for almost 4 months. In 2018, between 60 and 80,000 people died of the flu in the US alone, in one winter. So why on earth is everybody talking about a pandemic? During my research, I discovered 10 different storylines. It's actually quite a complex case, but also quite suspenseful. I'll try to explain things clearly. First of all, COVID-19 does indeed exist. It is not a hoax, as some people believe. It's a flu virus that falls in the category of SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome, which means it affects the lungs. COVID-19 makes you cough. It may also cause a runny nose and fever. This coronavirus causes the flu, an ordinary flu, as confirmed by more and more doctors worldwide. The chance that you will die from it is very small. Mostly old, sick and weakened people run the risk of dying from it. So why all the panic? That's because of storyline 2. The coronavirus started in Wuhan, a Chinese city with 11 million inhabitants. Patient 0, the first registered patient, caught the virus at an animal market, according to the official reports. And that's how the story emerged, that the virus had jumped from bat to man via a bowl of delicious yet infected bat soup. Now, whether or not this is a realistic explanation is yet to be seen. But at any rate, the epidemic started in Wuhan. The first images that reached us were quite innocent. People were simply wearing mouth caps. Life went on. People had lung problems anyway due to the heavily polluted air in Wuhan. But suddenly we started getting these images. That estranged me. When you have the flu with a fever, you stay at home, in bed or on the couch. But these people had gone out and they just dropped dead? Anyway, the Chinese Communist government showed the world to take well care of its people. In 10 days' time, they built a brand new hospital with 1,000 beds. A pretty impressive job. Now, before we continue with this hospital and this storyline, let's quickly jump to storyline number 3. In April 2018, Wuhan was appointed by the government to become a state-of-the-art 5G city. With the usual Chinese diligence, 3,000 macro stations and 27,000 micro stations were placed. 5G was going to contribute to a super-fast wireless communication. 2019 was the year of the 5G experiments, and in 2020, everything had to be up and running. In my own country, the Netherlands, Secretary of State for Economic Affairs and Climate, Mona Keizer, lectured us about 5G's infinite possibilities.
Bijvoorbeeld op het gebied van landbouwprecisie, om heel precies te weten op afstand wat er nodig is, bijvoorbeeld aan water, of te veel of te weinig, of bijvoorbeeld gebruik van pesticiden, drones die gebruik gaan maken van die technologie, crowd control. We zijn met steeds meer mensen, dus het is ook van belang dat je bij grote evenementen op een snelle, adequate manier kunt reageren op incidenten.
From controlling the agricultural quota to crowd control, where insubordinates can be corrected immediately through facial recognition, think drones with cameras, 5G is the future, according to this enthused politician. Well, there are hundreds of thousands of people who are not that happy with 5G. Fact of the matter is, 5G was never properly tested on humans and animals. And the few experiments with these specific frequencies made cows go hysterical, made birds drop dead from the sky, and made people fall ill with flu-like symptoms. That's an interesting set of circumstances. Wuhan, corona flu, and 5G flu symptoms? Now, of course, this can all be a coincidence, but the skeptic in me became activated upon hearing this. Could it be that the coronavirus is used to wave off 5G complaints? No, madam, there's no way 5G can cause these symptoms. 5G is completely safe. You're simply infected with a coronavirus. No annoying citizens. No lawsuits or damage claims. Right, let's go back to the previous storyline. What exactly did happen in Wuhan? The following videos reached us. On January 30, the American Republican Thomas Cotton expressed his concern about the situation in China. The entire border with Russia is closed. Air traffic has been minimized. 16 million people have been quarantined. Schools are closed. Hong Kong has been cut off from the mainland. And he said, this coronavirus is a catastrophe on the scale of Chernobyl for China. Wow, that's huge! The Chinese whistleblower Miles Guo, who fled from China and now lives in the US, told an even more devastating tale. 250 million people are quarantined. 1.5 million people have been infected. 50,000 people have died. 1,200 people are cremated per day. All media are censored. All major cities are on lockdown. The entire industry is down. The US and the CIA are blamed, and the virus was man-made. He went on to talk about the new hospital and said, "Every window has metal bars. This is not an ordinary hospital. It's more like a prison. The doors are locked from the outside. The patients simply cannot leave." When I first heard him speak, I didn't realize that he was not talking about the coronavirus. Something entirely different was going on here. What exactly didn't occur to me until I read this report from the American Department of Justice. On January 28, the DOJ announced that Dr. Charles Lieber, the chair of Harvard's Chemistry and Chemical Biology Department, was arrested for giving fraudulent statements to the FBI. In 2011, Lieber became a strategic scientist at the Wuhan University of Technology in China. He received $1.5 million to set up a research lab in Wuhan, plus living expenses of $150,000, plus a monthly fee of $50,000 to attract, recruit, and cultivate high-level scientific talent for China's scientific development, economic prosperity, and national security. Dr. Lieber had concealed all of the above, and when the FBI confronted him, he denied everything. And so, on January 28, he was arrested and brought before the judge. What struck me most upon investigating this case was the Lieber Research Group that focuses on the research and development of nanoscale materials, nanoelectronics, and brain research. We're focusing on a novel approach for integrating electronics within the brain and other areas of the nervous system, the company states, thus trying to influence the cognitive functions and the behavior of people. Cognitive functions are all processes involved in the taking in and processing of information. Think, for instance, intelligence, memory, focus, concentration, speed of thinking, planning ability, social cognition, language skills, and problem-solving capabilities. And that is influenced by injecting nanoscale materials into our brains? Why does that make me think of 5G's crowd control? Then I read the statements of a man who claims to be a high-ranking military in the Chinese army. He described the horrific things he had witnessed in Wuhan's new prison-like hospital. He was deeply shocked and had decided to tell the world what he'd seen, just before the social media were taken over and shut down by the Chinese government. He wrote about the existence of a horrid bioweapon in Wuhan and other parts of China, killing millions of people. He made it very clear that he was not talking about the coronavirus. He was talking about a bioweapon. It was developed to suppress the Hong Kong protesters who had been roaming the streets since March 2019. The Hong Kong protests were peaceful. Millions of people were singing songs of peace, and they pleaded with the American President Donald Trump to support them in their efforts to gain more freedom. That was a thorn in the flesh of the Chinese government. It struck hard. Protesters were arrested and taken away in train wagons, not ever to return. Desperate families sent videos via Twitter and Facebook, begging other countries to intervene. The protests continued. The Chinese government ordered for the development of a bioweapon that would trigger a rapid development of Parkinson's disease among the Hong Kong protesters. Their cognitive functions would have to be diminished so they would no longer be a threat to the government. A rapid senile decay was its goal. However, this bioweapon turned out to do a lot more than that. The first experiments did show perfect senility, conform the plan, but it subsequently caused horrific psychoses, anxiety attacks that never stopped. And then organs started to dissolve, which resulted in a gruesome death after 3 horrible weeks. The kind of death you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. The Chinese government decided not to use the bioweapon. It was too destructive. Where was this weapon developed? At the Wuhan National Biosecurity Laboratory, a level 4 lab where the most dangerous killer viruses are researched and developed. You can probably guess what's coming next. The bioweapon was released by accident during a covert exchange at the Wuhan animal market by a corrupt lab employee who tried to sell the bioweapon for a massive amount of money to the American Secret Service, the CIA. Shots were fired and the killer bioweapon was released. Wuhan's inhabitants didn't stand a chance. They were doomed. In a desperate damage control attempt, the Chinese government shut down the entire country. According to our high-level whistleblower, the hospital was hell on earth with 3 departments. The first for those in senile decay, the second for those in psychosis, and a third for those who had died and were thrown into enormous furnaces to be instantly cremated, hoping the bioweapon would disappear in the flames. Is this horrid account true? Time will tell. For now, I deem it possible, bearing in mind the activities and Chinese connections of Dr. Charles Lieber. Right now, Wuhan is a ghost town with empty streets. People are locked up in their homes, their doors soldered shut. Another thing that seems to confirm the millions of casualties is the map showing extremely high SO2 emissions above Wuhan at the time of the catastrophe. SO2 is released upon the burning of organic material. Bodies? Was whistleblower Miles Guo right with his story about the crematoria that couldn't handle the amount of corpses? However gruesome, if true at all, please do realise that this has nothing to do with the coronavirus, our flu, our mild flu. For weeks, the World Health Organization and the United Nations told us there was no direct danger. You were only at risk when you were already old and sick. How on earth could this turn into a pandemic? This is shown in storyline 4.